Hello there survivors and welcome back to another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. Today we're building the visitor center from the Jurassic Park movies. It's a really cool build and the way I've made it is using the bunker structure custom cosmetic set, which is a premium cosmetic, but it's definitely worth it if you want to build more in the Jurassic Park style, because besides having the cool bunker look, it actually has some Dino Park skins that are inspired by the movies, so it is really a perfect fit. But of course, if you don't want to use this cosmetic or you want to use a different one or no cosmetics at all, the tutorial will be used in such a way that you can definitely just do this with using vanilla structures without any cosmetic. But of course, it will look a lot better if you use these ones. Besides that, I've used some additional mods for mostly the decorating, so you don't need them. They're optional additions like JVH landscaping for all of the plants, scribbles for the custom sign in front of the entrance, the shiny mod to get some of the skeleton dinos on display, as well as the wall and floor deco mod to get some more skeleton heads around there, as well as the trophy table mod to display some of the tributes in the game in a cool way to really bring this alive. I also used the cozy cabin cosmetic for some of the garden bits. I've used the crystal cosmetic for some of the water and the factory cosmetic for some of the crafting stations to change the looks of those. Now, a big disclaimer: if you plan on building this, some of the sections of the roof right here along the front actually can't be done without having small sections overlapping into the pillar here at the front. I don't know if this would be possible on official settings, so if you're in doubt, maybe try out this section of the build first. I will have a timestamp at the bottom that shows this section in particular, so you can try that one out first to see if it works on official settings. There is of course an alternative option. You could leave some of the gaps open and maybe have some signs on top of it to kind of be like scaffolding, like maybe it's already damaged in the storm like it does get damaged in the movies, or maybe even the slightly ruined version we see in later movies, and have some plant pots with some bushes on top to kind of hide the gaps. But yeah, make sure to check that before you start building it on official. For the rest, it's definitely completely possible on official. There is no other overlapping that you need to do, and it's also well within the structure limits. So if you can pull off those little gaps at the front, then you should be totally good to go. As always, if you enjoy seeing these build tutorials and you want to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. Okay, and as usual, of course, we're going to get started with a foundation. And for this one, we want to start with triangles. We're going to count the ones here on the outside, and we want to make sure that we have 7 in total on the outside. So just like this, 7 on the outside is what we want right here at the front, and then on both sides of that we're going to go out by 6 full foundations. So 6 over here, but also 6 over on the other side. So again, another 6 going out over there as well. And then over here, we actually also want to go out by 6. Again, we're only counting the ones on the outside. So as soon as we have 6 of those, that means we're done for this section. We do want to have 1 going in again. So yeah, 6 on the outside, but end on this diagonal here. And we'll do the exact same thing here over on the other side, of course. Also, we're just counting the ones here on the outside, making sure that we have 6 of them here on the outside. And again, getting that diagonal going back into the building. And before we move on to the next section, we actually want to expand a little bit here. So we want to add 1 layer of full foundations. Then over here, we want to bring it out by a 2x2. And over here as well. And then right down there in the middle, we can have some ramps going down into the ground. This will be one of the entrances, so we can already have a dino gate there. It's going to be one of the side entrances, and then here over on this side we're going to do the same thing. So first of all, connecting a layer of foundations, then having a little 2x2 here, 2x2 on this corner, and once again adding in some ramps to get into the building, as well as a gateway to get into the inside. Then before we continue, we want to have a layer of the full foundations here on the inside because we need those to continue the rest of the building. So we'll do that here on both of these triangles, and then we can continue with the next side, which is going to be, again, counted from the outside, 6 triangles. So we'll continue this a little bit more, just like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And of course, exact same thing here on the other side. So again, counting from the outside, we want to go until 6. So just like that, we should have 6 on the outside here. And then the next one, full foundations, another 6 of them just like this. And of course, the same thing here on the other side, 6 full foundations coming out from those triangles. And as you can see, we're slowly but surely creating a circular shapes with some additions here and there. So then for the next angle, we want to continue with our triangles. We actually want to have 6 of them facing outside, just like this. We'll do the same thing here for this other side of the building, again having 6 of them facing the outside, just like so. We'll still take out our triangles though, but change it to the quarter foundation. Have 2 of them on that corner and 2 of them on that corner as well. Same thing here on this section, 2 on each of the corners. Then we can take out the full foundations and we'll have 5 right into the middle there. And we'll do the same thing over here, 5 of them right there in the middle. Should perfectly line up. And then here in between, we will have triangle foundations again. And again, it should be 7 of them facing towards the outside here, and it should all perfectly line up. So we have completed the circle with some additions here and there, and we're going to continue some extra additions as well. We want to take out our triangles here, and counting on the outside, we want to have 3 of them going in like this. And then if we start from here, we also want to make sure that we have those 3. Then we can bring this across, which should perfectly line up, and we can just start filling in the rest of this foundation. And again, it's going to be a little side addition to the building here at the back. And what we need to do is start filling in the entirety of the foundation. Now, kind of what you want to do is wherever you have triangles, you want to connect the full foundations against them and the other way around. And that is kind of the trick in filling this in. And if you continue alternating triangles and full foundations, by the end you should line up perfectly in the middle with a nice circular shape. So for now, we're just going to go around, and against any triangles we want to have our full foundations. And then for the next layer, of course, any triangles we want to line, or any full foundations we want to line up with our triangles to get this circle to work. And yeah, as said, we kind of want to just keep doing this until we meet exactly in the middle. So for now, it's going to just be a lot of repetition of placing these down one by one, getting a step closer to having a full foundation in the ground, and meet right in the middle. And meet right in the middle to basically finish this entire shape. So for now, we're just going to continue that all the way round. And I always like to do this in sections, as I do right now. So I do a whole layer of triangles first, then a whole layer of the full foundations, rather than alternating right away, because I feel like this is just a little bit more practical. And especially in survival, it means you carry one type at a time instead of having to carry multiple. So yeah, now that we've done the triangles again, we want to bring out our full foundations, and of course keep going round like this. The start will be a little bit slow, of course, whilst the circle is still quite large, but the closer we get to the inside, the quicker this will go, of course, and will give you a nice big foundation for the rest of the build. There we go. We'll just keep going like this. We should have been all the way around, and that means we can take out our triangles again. And yeah, this is the process that we're gonna have to keep repeating all the way until we make it to the middle. But yeah, you will be able to see that we have quite a large footprint for this one. And besides it being a cool build, of course, looking like Jurassic Park, it should also offer you a decent amount of space. So for ARK, if you're using this as a survival base, should hopefully give you enough room to do most of your things, even breeding, etc., depending of course on how you do the interior decorations. You can of course choose to take out some of the interior walls that will end the building if you want to just have a nice big open space in the middle. That is all up to you. And would you like best for your base? There we go. We've gone all the way around again. So back to the full foundations and filling those in all the way round. That usually goes a lot quicker, of course, than the triangles. But as you can see, it's becoming easier and easier and shorter bits. So before we know it, we'll end up right at the middle and we'll have the full foundation in place. So for now, again, we're just going to keep alternating, filling these in, and yeah, getting our foundation in place, which is a little bit time consuming, of course, but it will be the most important bit of the work, of course, because then we can quite quickly get the visitor center shape in place. There we go. And of course, it's very important to know whether you have enough space before we continue any of the other building, because as long as these foundations are down, you should have no problem fitting in the rest of the build. This is all the space we're gonna utilize, so there's no extra additions after we finish these foundations. So yeah, should be totally good to go if you've managed to fit these in somewhere. Of course, you want to have a decently flat spot, but yeah, shouldn't be too difficult to get this done somewhere. So we'll go all the way around, just like that. And you can already see that it's becoming easier and easier now that we are closer and closer than ever to the middle here. And yeah, we can just keep this going, filling in these triangles. And now you can really see we're almost at the center of our circle. There we go. We'll fill in the remaining foundations, but we should be getting really close. As you can see, we can fill in those triangles and then the last few to finish the circle. And now we do have a rather nice large foundation, which is pretty much all the space that we need. Of course, we'll need to add in a few entryways. For example, right here at the back, we'll have some entrances. We want to take out our ramps, and we can add some ramps in right here. Of course, depending on your landscape, you might need more, or of course you can always do roofs or stairs instead if you want to go for that look. But yeah, you can at least have a layer of these just like that. And so this is the entire foundation that we have right now. This is going to be the front of the building, so between those two side gates, not between those extra triangle additions at the back. We want to go right here in the middle, so that's the one with the triangles. We want to go in by a little bit until we have these 4 foundations, and this is where we'll start placing a wall right behind that. So that is where we're going to start building the entrance. In front of that, we'll have a layer of ceilings just like this, and that means that on the other side, of course, we'll have a layer of triangles just like that. So we raise it up by a little bit, and then we actually want to start, you know, making a little shape. So we'll have walls going off to the side just like so, and this one we can go all the way until we reach almost the end. You'll see it won't perfectly fit, but if you take out some quarter walls, it should be a near perfect fit to the end of this shape. We'll do the same thing here on the other side. So we'll bring this all the way out and then add 2 quarter pieces just right over there. If we take out a full wall over here, there should be just a tiny little gap for both of these. So just like this. What we want to do is we want to take out a pillar, add it right there to, you know, kind of make that gap a little bit smaller, and then hopefully against this other wall, we will also be able to place down a pillar. You might not be able to make the pillar go down, just see whatever your settings allow. But yeah, adding these 2 pillars will make it that there's almost no gap visible anymore. It's the best that we can do to try and get as close to the shape that we see in the movies as well. Now for the entry, we want to add 2 more ceilings on these corners, just like so. Then we want to take out our triangles, which should be able to go along the side of the building just fine. And we'll end them just before the end, so just before the quarter walls. Then we can bring them back over here on the other side, just over there. And then here we can do the same thing. So bring this out just until before the quarter walls. Bring this back in. There we go. So these are just going to be some nice walkways on the side. We want to take out our railings. Can already add in some railings around it. There we go. And we want to also make sure that we add them in over there. Just bringing these all the way along the sides of this. Then we also want to take out our stone walls. Take those out and follow along with this shape to really get a nice entrance possible here. So there we go. Just want to add these walls in. And then of course the last 2 over there. So it's already creating a little bit of an entrance here. We want to take out these and then take out our quarter stairs. Add 4 of them just over here. Then we can take out some ceilings and we can start adding in a little walkway. We want to bring that all the way out here in the front. And then right at the front, we can take out our bigger stairs and we should be able to bring them down into the grounds just like this. And of course, we can add some railings along the sides of that, as well as some railings, of course, just along the sides here in general. And of course, some or half railings just over there so that we have that walkway coming out here. But of course, we do still want to add some details to these side additions that we still have going on. Then we want to create some little gardens right here at the front. So we want to take out 4 quarter walls, just go along the side like this, do the exact same thing over here. Then we want to take out our thatch quarter ceilings, change them into triangles, and we should be able to get a nice shape in place just like so with some triangles, creating a nice little garden bed. And then of course we should be able to take out our other quarter walls and finish this whole garden bed just like so. We can then of course also do the same thing over here, make sure that these sides are filled in nicely so nothing is open up anymore. And you could, of course, also continue this like so. If you're allowed to place it, you can just make it easier and just do a slope wall right there. If not, just follow along with the quarter wall, so at least you can't see under the rail bridge. But hopefully you'll be able to place that one to finish that entrance. So we have a nice garden bed there. We want to, of course, do the same thing here on the opposite side. So we bring out these, make sure that we follow all the way along. Fill that all in, and then we can take out our quarter walls again to create these little garden beds. And if you want to make it look more like a garden, you can either use the Cozy Cabins cosmetic, which has some nice grass, which looks really, really good. But you can also just paint the thatch in a green color like filth to really get a nice little grass bed. And to add a little bit more details to it, what I would do is take out our beams and have some beams just around the outside to kind of border that off. We want to do the same thing over here, just like that. And then in here, I would make a little bit of a nice water thing. So first of all, we'll have some pillars going across like this, or beams going across like this, so that's where the water would end. There's a few options here. You can change these bottom ones to a nice cosmetic, either using the free wild water cosmetic or using the paid version of the crystal skins, which have some amazing options, and you can turn them into water. That means that we have a nice little garden here and then some water here. If you're using the crystal ones, you can even go a step further and, you know, add in some quarter ceilings here first. Make it go into a little slope with like a ramp or something, just to make like the water a little bit more, yeah, you know, shaped wise. And you can have some little waterfalls on both sides. Only works with the crystal ones, I think, because that's the only one that has the water skin for multiple pieces rather than just the foundations. But wild water is fine as well, because it will still add in a little bit of water to the sides of these, just creating a little bit more of a custom entrance that looks a little bit cooler. But even without the water, it looks pretty nice already. And then of course we want to take out a gateway, and we want to place that right over here to be the entrance to our park. We can actually also take out the actual gates. Add one over here, one over there, and one over at that side. And that's going to be the entrances to our visitor center. And to finish this little entrance into the build, we want to add 3 ceilings here. Then take out our quarter triangle pieces again. Add them right over there. We want to take out our walls, and we just want to follow the shape of this. Of course, you could use some secret doorway walls here as well if you want to be able to utilize this and maybe hide some storage or generators under there, but for now we're just going to use it as normal. And then we want to also bring in some stairs just like that, some staircases to provide your entry into the rest of the building. And to make it a little bit nicer, we can take out our railings, add them over here around the front as well, and over there to the side too. So this is going to be the nice grand entrance to our visitor center hallway, or the main hall. All right, then we'll work on the front walls here so that we have the whole entrance complete. We want to take out some walls right around the entrance here and just go alongside like this as an easy start to the building. Then we want to take out all quarter walls over here, and we're going to raise this up. Now, in total, it's going to have to be 4 walls high, so it's 8 quarter walls in total. And we'll do that, of course, on both ends of these. So just like this, that should be high enough. And then we can have this wall connect from one side all the way up to the middle here. So there we go, bringing in some shape to the building already. Now, for the rest of this, there's 2 ways to do this. If you're going to use the bunker structure cosmetics or any cosmetics, you can of course just use full walls, stronger materials to utilize it to the best possibility, and then change them into windows using cosmetics. If you're not planning on using cosmetics, we'll have to use greenhouse walls as glass, because that's all we got. It's not great, but it's better than nothing. So this is going to be a window. I'm going to use this greenhouse glass just for the tutorial's sake, so you know where the windows are supposed to be. But I would definitely recommend getting a cosmetic instead, which will look 1,000 times better. Definitely, of course, the bunker structures cosmetics are the perfect match for this build, and they will have perfectly amazing looking windows that are definitely way better than this. But if you don't have any cosmetics, and especially not any premium cosmetics, this might be the way to go. So we have some big windows, but we're gonna add some details to that, of course. First of all, adding a nice pillar here every 2, just to kind of add some different layers to these windows. And of course, same thing over here. So every 2, there's going to be a pillar going up just like that. And we also want to raise up this pillar right at the end of all things. So make sure that that one goes all the way up to the top over here, creating a nice shape already. Then we want to take out our beams, and of course the beams are going to go right here from the corner along the top. Same thing over here, and then all the way at the end we'll have a little gap, so we'll need a half beam to finish that little detail. Already looking quite nice. For some extra details, we can take out some metal beams. We can have them along the bottoms of the windows as well as across the top, just to add that little extra bit of detail. And especially with the bunker skins, there's some great variations for that kind of look too. So there we go, we have the front wall with the nice big windows for the visitor center. And then this wall here is actually very simple. We just want to raise this all the way up on both of these corners. So all the way up. And of course, we want to take out our pillars. We actually want to have pillars along both sides of this, bringing it all the way up and then having a beam going across the top. So again, same thing over here. Want to make sure that we add in those pillars on both sides going all the way up and then add a beam going across the top there too. And then it's time to work on these side entrances of the building here. First of all, we want to take out walls here too wide all the way to the top, and then the first one is just going to be too high. Same over here, just a too high wall, and then here on the inside a too high wall. Then over here we want to bring this up by 4 in total, just like that, so just a little bit above the entrance. We also want to take out our ceilings, flip them around, add 2 of them in here, and then we can have 2 more walls just above the entrance itself. Over here, of course, we're going to repeat that process. So just like that, have a too high wall here in the front. And repeat the same shape here. So too high wall here, and then bringing this all the way up to the top. Then, of course, we're going to have some slope walls going into the inside here to create a little bit more shape over there. Then we, of course, want to take out our roof pieces. So just like this. We want to have some roofs over there to really give a little bit of shape to it all. And then we can take out those stone walls and fill in the remaining part of the front. There we go, to provide a nice entrance. And then along the top, we want to have some beams all the way round it, just like that. And as you can see, completely closed in, creating a nice entrance here for the side. We're going to do the exact same thing here for the other side. So a too high wall here at the end, and then bringing these walls all the way up to the right height of the rest of the building. Too high walls on the front again, of course. Too high wall here. This one is going to be 1 higher, of course, than this side. Take out some ceilings, flip those around so that we can have a nice wall above the entrance too. Too high wall at the end. This one bringing all the way up to those ceilings. Too high wall at the front. Too high wall there. And then this one, once again, going all the way back up. Then we'll take out our slope walls again, add them here along the front, adding in our roofs over there too to provide a little bit of shape, and then finally filling in the rest of the walls along the front as well to really get that look in place. Taking out our beams, continuing going all the way along the edges of the build, just like so. And there we go. We have 2 beautiful entrances to the side of our building and finishing the front shape of the build. Then on this little corner, we just want to bring this wall all the way up to the top. We'll do the exact same thing here for the other side of it. At the top, there's going to be a beam. And then we want to take out our pillars and add pillars in along the side of this tiny little wall for both of these sections. So same thing over here. Bring up this wall all the way like that, you know, going around the corner. And yeah, that already adds in a nice part of the building. Then continuing with the side over here, we want to start out by having 1 layer of walls going all the way across. And then in the middle, we're going to raise these up to match the rest of the height, bringing back out on the top layer, and these are going to be more windows. So again, for the tutorial, I'm using greenhouse walls in case you don't want to use any skins, but if you're using skins, you can just build it out of whatever strong material you want to build your base out of so it doesn't get destroyed as easily, and then use cosmetics to change the look instead, just as I did with the original building using the bunker structure cosmetics. We also want to take in this beam going across the top, just like that. And to add a little bit more details, we'll have some beams at the top and bottom of these window sections, as well as along the sides over there, just to make them stand out a little bit more than just having them all as normal. Then we're going to fill in the next section of wall, and if you're on official, you want to save some structures, you can definitely use some large walls, of course, or if you just want to save some materials. We want to fill that entire wall in, but importantly, we want to make it one higher than the previous ones. So on the other side, of course, we can do the exact same thing. Start filling in this entire wall just like that and make it one higher. And kind of forgot almost, but we also need to fill in, of course, this section in the same as we did on the other side. So we will create those nice windows just like this, exactly the same way as we did on the other side. Have the beam going across the top, and of course the pillars and the beams along the windows here. So making sure that we add those in just like so. Then along this side over here, we also want to make sure that we add a pillar going all the way up to the top and of course to the bottom. Same thing over here, just like so. And of course have the beam along the top as well. We're gonna do that, of course, on the other side, the original side too. So add in those beams going across, and then making sure that we have a pillar going all the way down. Same thing over here, pillar all the way up to the top, and there we go, getting more and more of the walls in place, and we can start to focus on the back of the building. All right, for this next section, we want to start, of course, by bringing these walls across the bottom. We can do the same thing for both sides. So once again, bringing these walls across the bottom all the way. And then we can take out the walls here on the side and just fill the last two in all the way to the top. We want to do the same thing here on the opposite side. So bring these all the way to the top. Then we want to add in a window, being 3 high in total. So the final 2 layers, we can have our walls going up again. But of course, we want to take out all metal beams and pillars around the window to add in a little bit more detail there. Then we can also take out our full walls on this side, bring this wall all the way up to the top. And of course, making sure to add in the actual pillars all the way up to along, and then the same thing along this side, adding in our beams at the top of the wall just like so, getting that in place. And of course we want to do the same thing over here as well. We want to bring this wall up all the way to the same height, the walls here at the end, of course, bring those all the way up, bring this one all the way up to the right height as well, having our window in here, and then the final 2 layers. There we go. We can take out our metal pillars going along the side of the building, then beams across the top and the bottom of the window just to make it stand out a little bit more. And then we can also add in our beam along the top of this wall, as well as taking out our pillars and making sure that we add those in along the sides too, just to finish these sections as well. So there we go, we're almost all the way around now. Then we want to take out a behemoth cellar door. We want to switch to the barn doors, and we can snap them in right over here. So we want to have one there and another one over here, and this will allow you to bring in some pretty big creatures easily into your base. And then we can take out our quarter walls, bring them up along the side of this all the way to the top. Same thing over here on this side, bringing them all the way up just like so. And of course doing the exact same thing alongside this part of the building. So we'll bring this all the way up along the top as well. Same thing over here. We want to go along, bring this all the way up just like that. And then of course we can take out our walls and make sure that we have one layer going across the top of this wall, and yeah, making sure that this lines up with the rest of the building. There we go. Of course, taking out our beam to keep that going, and we'll do the exact same thing here for the other side. There we go. And then the final wall here along the back, we want to bring up one wall all the way to the top. We are going to do the exact same thing here on the other side, making sure this is all the way to the top. Then we want to bring in the first 3 layers just across from one side to the other. Now, if you're going to use the bunker cosmetics, once again, you can just fill in the next layer with normal walls and we'll change the look with the skin afterwards. If you're not using those cosmetics, you want to make a window here. So we will go across just like this. Then we can take out all metal pillars and beams. You don't need to do this if you're going to use the bunker cosmetics, because they already have really cool windows that stick out by themselves. But we want to add a layer just like this from one side to the other. And then for the rest of this, we want to fill it in all the way through, just like that. And of course, we can add in some pillars here. So we want to make sure that one pillar goes all the way up. Same thing here on the other side. Bring it all the way up. And then, of course, continue the beam from one side to the other. And that means that we have the entire wall on the outside of this building done. And we can start focusing on starting to build up to the rest of the layers and adding in the roofs, of course. Alright, before we get started on the roof, we're going to do some work here on the interior, as well as making the staircase up to the roof, so it all is a little bit easier, especially in survival. You want to go over here, make sure that you snap in this pillar right there, just like so. We'll do the exact same thing here on the other side. And we want to make sure that we make them 7 high in total. So that is 2 higher than the current walls. So we'll add them in right over there. Then it's time to make the entire circle work. So what we want to do is this pillar is on the corner of these structures. So what we want to do is find the next corner and add the next 2 pillars in just over there. Then we want to have one more pillar over here. Keep following that corner and add them in on those points. And then we want to do the same thing over here. Add them on that point. Add one over here. And then add 2 over there. And that should make the whole circle go around. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we raise up all these pillars to be 7 high in total, which is going to be the inner circle that is going to go all the way up to where we have the nice round roof bits with the thatch roof that are very iconic for the visitor center. So for now, we want to make sure that we fill all of these all the way in. Yeah, to kind of get the main hall going. Just like that. So that is already going to give a lot of shape, of course, to the main structure here. Now, you could just leave it at this if you want to, of course, keep the most room on the inside and then just build a quick staircase up somewhere in the corner to get up to the roof and get access to those layers. But, you know, in order to design this base a little bit more, I did create some extra hallways so that you basically have this main room as either decorative or, of course, as your main crafting room, and then you have a hallway along the side where you can do some more of your breeding, etc. So in order to do that, we need some more pillars. We're going to have 2 pillars right on these corners, and these ones we want to make just as high as the main building itself, so not as high as the other ones, just 5 high for these. So then this is the next section where we want to add another pillar on both of these corners. So just like that. So just to make sure there's basically 2 foundations in between those 2. So let's go all the way back to the other side again and add in these structures, bringing these pillars up. Same thing over here, bringing this all the way up. Then going over here, adding those in just like so. And then, of course, this one in the middle, we also want to make the pillars go up by 5. So again, this is more just so that you have some division going on. And then what we can do is start adding in all walls in here. And these walls you can raise all the way up to the top, And this will basically create a hallway where you can do crafting, breeding, whatever you want. And like the main hall in the middle that you can either make look very nice, or of course more space for your breeding, as well as the staircase, etc. up to the next layers that we'll work on in a little bit. For now, we'll start filling in these walls along the sides, of course. We want to basically fill in everything up to here so that we leave the middle open there so you can get into the hallways, and the first section of the wall, of course. That one we're going to leave open because otherwise your windows will be blocked, but also more access point to the wall. So you have 4 wall segments over there, and then you should have 4 wall segments on the other side as well that we want to start filling in just along the sides like this. Same thing over here, all the way along, and just bringing them all the way up. There we go. So we'll fill these in just to create a little bit more shape into the building. So yeah, you have basically 3 entry points to get into that hallway. Just breaks things up a little bit and gives us this nice iconic hall in the middle of the building. Then after 3 walls, we want to start adding in some ceilings. So we'll start with the full ceilings, basically creating a nice walkway around, just on this layer, just like that. And then of course we can take out our triangles, fill in the next section just like so, going all the way around and adding it in. Another one over here, filling that all the way in. This one as well. Basically, of course, following the pattern that is below, just to make it all line up again. And once we have these, we want to fill in the remaining sections, as well as, of course, making sure that we fill in this section by going across like that, filling that in, filling this in. So that's the walkways almost complete. Want to bring this out by a little bit right here in the front. Then we're almost there. We need to start working on a way to get onto here. So we want to add 1 more layer of full ceilings, then some more triangles here on the outside, as well as some triangles over here and over there on these sides, just like that. Then we can take out our stairs, and we should be able to add in a nice staircase coming down over here. We can then, of course, take out some railings. Make sure to add them along the sides of this, and then, of course, make sure not to misplace any. We also can add in the railings along these edges, just, of course, to make these walkways safe. We can continue them all the way along these sides, and these walkways, of course, you can definitely utilize either decorating them or adding crafting stations, etc. around the place, because you do have a decent amount of space, and it also just creates a nice atmosphere, of course, here on the inside. Actually, we also want to take out all slope walls, add in a few details here and there by adding in these. I would go for the shallow slope walls, but of course you could go for the normal ones if you want to. But it's just a nice little bit of extra detail going around, adding these in just to add a little bit more shape to all of this. And of course we can also do that over here on this side, making sure just to follow along this entire shape just like that. There we go. That already adds in a little bit more shape and makes this feel very nice as the main hall in the middle. And then here all the way at the back, this is where we're going to make some kind of control room, which is also going to lead into the top layers of the build. So first of all, we want to mimic the floor for this section to bring it out to the other side. So that does mean that we're not going to have like straight walls. That is kind of the downside of building in these kind of shapes within ARK. Yeah, you can't just build a wall from one corner to the other corner because it doesn't line up the same way. But you know, it's fine. We're gonna just have to live with that kind of shape, and it's not too bad. It's just kind of a little bit wiggly, you know, a little bit wiggly. All right, for the entrance, we're going to use some glass. Again, if you're using the bunker skins, you can just use normal walls and then skin them. But we want to go around just like that. Then we need some quarter walls for the actual doorway. So we're just going to do this and add a nice double door right there in the middle. And that's going to be the entrance basically to the control room here. Again, along the first layer of the sides, we want to have some windows. For the bunker skin, just use normal walls and then change them into the window variants. But otherwise, again, we're going to use some windows so that you can look out on both sides and yeah, see all your tames and dinos down there hanging out. And then on top of here, we want to add in one layer of full walls all the way around. And then starting from the back, so the outside wall, we want to have 1, 2, 3, and then this one is going to be an entrance, and that one is already going to be lower again. So the same thing on the other side. First layer, we can add them everywhere, and then 1, 2, and 3, and then the last one is going to be open. And where it's open, we want to add in 2 little quarter ceilings, just like that, and then we can make some staircases going down from there. You can choose, of course, if you only wanted that one side, maybe to save on some structures, but you know, it's quite practical to having multiple ways to walk around. So we'll just add in both of these staircases coming down from that. Then we want to make sure that we add in a nice little stone railing around the edge of these. Now, at the moment, we still can't snap these just down, so what you want to do instead is go through the snap points at the end of the other railing and add in the railings coming all the way down, because that does work. There we go. And then we can take out all thin pillars and add them in those corners just to add a little bit more details to it. And then of course for this section we also want to have a pillar or a railing. What we want to do is temporarily add a full pillar there that we can use as a snap point, and again go through all the snap points until we reach one that works for the staircase, and add that in. And then the same thing over here. We can then take out the pillar and place the one that we actually want. Hopefully that will be fixed at some point, but for now that is the way to do it. And then we have 2 staircases leading into this next layer. All right, and then from the top of these staircases we want to add in some more walkways. So here we're going to count this side, so that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. We want to add one more just so we can go around the corner, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which should line up with the ones below. So that is going to be the walkway to the outside. We're going to do the same thing here. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. One more just so we can go around the corner, and then add 5 of them in here. So that's 5 in total, again lining up with the ones that we have on the on the floor below. And now here we probably want to use more windows. Again, if you're using bunker cosmetics, you don't have to use these. You can just use normal walls. But yeah, we want to make sure that we have these walls going around the walkway to bring a little bit of light in. So all the way around. But we are, of course, going to add some doors in there. So probably the middle one you want to change out to a doorway, so you actually have an access point to the roof. So we'll add in the proper doors for both of these as well. There we go. So this means that we can now actually enter our roof. And then of course we want to take out some railings just alongside the walkways so that we don't fall off. And we are going to, of course, do that for both sides. So just adding in these walkways all the way round. And with that, it means that we're getting to the point where we can actually start to fill in the ceilings on top of the roof. What we want to do now, this is, of course, full ceiling. So against that, we want to have some triangles. Again, following the shape of the building, following whatever is below it as well. So over here, we're going to do the same thing because, yeah, basically we're following the patterns that are below on the ground, on the floor, because that will match the same shape. So we can start filling this in. And of course, over here, we can actually also add in some windows. You might want to take out these railings. We don't really need that. Maybe even the little small pillars, so you have nothing overlapping, especially on official. That's probably not going to work. And we can just have that window going all the way along the edge of this. What we also want to do then is take out our pillars. We want to have one pillar there, one pillar here and there, and just kind of go around adding those in to make sure that we have this section a little bit supported. And we also want to go ahead and add in some beams going across the top here to make sure that we get this section nicely connected. And we still need to do some work here, of course, but we're definitely getting there, and we're getting to filling in the actual layers here of the roof. So first of all, we want to just fill in this section. So again, it's alternating the different materials. So wherever you have triangles, then you want to fill in some full ceilings next, just like that. And of course, we can kind of continue that all the way around, especially where we already have these walls in place, just to start filling in sections of this. Then we can take out our triangles, just like so. We want to make sure, by the way, that we don't fill in anything between the pillars. So we don't want to go any further than the pillars that we have sticking out. Kind of just want to fill this in for now, because especially in survival, it's going to make it a lot easier as soon as you have some access to the roof to walk around on, of course, and to land on. If you're flying around whilst building, it just makes it a little bit easier to have that all in place, staircases in place, etc. So for now, we're just going to follow along and add in little bits of this walkway so that we can focus on the next section. So for now, we'll fill in these last gaps. There we go. So at least we have basically the walkway, or the roof above the walkway, covered for now. Then the next section, what we're going to focus on is these outsides right next to the raised up bit. So again, we're going to have one layer of triangles going on here. Then the opposite side, of course, we'll do the exact same thing. And then switching back to the full ceilings, and then one more layer of triangles to at least finish this bit over here. We want to then continue to do the same thing on the other side. Add in that layer of full ceilings. Add in that layer of triangles again. There we go. Then over here at the side, we want to fill in the walls. So 2 walls just like that means that we can take out this railing here and fill in the full wall, and also make sure that we have the beams going across the top. So that's filling in that section that's just a little bit higher. We do the same thing over here, so we can add in those walls and then the beams across the top of it. So that means that we have this section now completed with the walls. And the first thing we probably want to do is start filling that all in. So again, we want to look at whatever is below, and in this case, that's full ceilings. And we want to start adding that in all the way along the side. So the same thing over here. We can fill in those all the way across. And then over here, the same thing. Again, I just find it a little bit easier to keep the same piece as much as possible before switching around again. So there we go. We can actually also fill in this one already because we have a wall to connect to. The same thing goes over here, of course. We can connect these between the walls, and then over here we have a section where we can do that. And then we have a section where we can do that over here as well. So we can already fill in quite a bit, pretty much all of the full ceilings that we need, basically creating the gaps for the triangles to go in between. So we can fill in this section of the roof, and we can actually fill in this entire section back here with our triangles. There we go, which will start to really finish off this back of the building, which is of course a nice thing to, you know, one less thing to worry about. So we want to just go along and fill in all of these sections of this roof. There we go. One more section over here. Just trying not to misplace them, but just trying to go along and fill them all in. 2 more sections to go, I believe. Just adding them all the way around. There we go. And of course, then this section as well. One more small section, and then this back part, of course, we also want to add in our triangles all the way around. Just like that. And the last few, there we go. So yeah, that is the roof filled in of the raised up section at the back, and it also provides you with access points to the roof here, which is of course a great thing to have. Now what we can do is we can actually go around and start filling in the walls of this section, which is the basically the big roof section that we want to add, which is definitely gonna transform this into the iconic visitor center. So we want to start going around and fill in these walls for the sections that we already have the ceilings in place. So we can just kind of go along the sides like that. Then over here we want to continue that shape, so we have one layer of full ceilings going off to the front of the building, and then of course here at the front we'll need some triangles to go all the way around. There we go. We can then continue to fill in these sections, and again for the bunker skins you would just use whatever wall you want, because you're going to change it with cosmetics. Of course you can also use other cosmetics to get nicer windows, as I've said, just using these greenhouse glass ones, so you know for the tutorial which is going to be a window in the end. There we go. So we want to fill this all the way in so that we can start working on that section of the build next. Now before we actually go ahead and, you know, build the roof, we're going to fill in the rest of this part of the roof. So we're just going to continue these as far as we can. Now this is what I mentioned all the way at the start. There is some issues here at the front, so for now we're going to get as close as possible without actually interfering with the front itself. So yeah, we just want to bring it as close as possible but not go through the edge, of course. So this one we are going to fill in so that it's just going to stick out a tiny bit. You're not really going to notice. Unfortunately, this is just the way we have to work with the limitations of ARK and making shapes that well, we see in real life or in movies that unfortunately aren't quite completely possible within the boundaries of ARK itself. So yeah, for now we just want to continue filling the sections in that we can fill in. Obviously don't want to go there. And then we reach the side of this, so we can just fill that in, and then this side should be very straightforward once again. That means that we've got this corner completely covered in. Let's focus on filling this side in as well before we do you know, the front with the slight issues, the slight challenges. So we're just gonna fill in these sections first, all the way across, so that we have a nice big roof to work with, so that we don't have to worry too much about falling down and through it all the time. So yeah, then the last section here, of course, is going to be very easy again. Then here over on this side, again, we want to get as close as possible to these without going to the edge too much. So yeah, we just want to fill in whatever we can. Yeah, unfortunately, the issue is that ARK doesn't really like creating these weird shapes, because you get weird spots that are left behind. We want to place one triangle over here on both of these sides to fill in as much as possible, as well as a triangle right over there along the corner. This will do so without too much overlapping on the outside, just slightly sticking through the outside there. We also want to make sure that we add that one, because that already kind of fixes that one section, so kind of fills that all in. Then we want to take out our quarter ceilings. We want to make sure we snap it against this one and fill in two right over there. Fills in that corner quite nicely. Do the same thing over here on this side. Two little quarter ceilings there. And then over here, we want to do quarter ceilings like this, all the way across over there. There we go. And then this one is really the most troubling bit. You can either do two more quarter ceilings there, or you can do a triangle there. This is exactly what I mean with, I don't think there's going to be a way to get this done on official settings, which is quite unfortunate, of course. But yeah, you just kind of need to fill in those little gaps as good as possible. Of course, if you are building this on official and you want to do something to make it look nice, what you could do is get some plant pots with some, you know, bushes or any plants, and just kind of place them along the edges to kind of hide the gaps as good as possible. Or maybe add in some signs, like you're blocking things up like it was the broken version that we see in Jurassic World, and just try to add some signs there to kind of make it look like it's tried to be boarded up once it got destroyed by the storm or something like that. Unfortunately, that is the only way to make this really work. But once we've done that, we've got the whole ceiling done here, and we can start focusing on the main roofs themselves. So the first things first, we want to make sure that we take out our roofs. Wherever we have triangles on the outside, it means that we'll have a full roof on the inside. It's kind of like the pattern we would normally do with the floor, and then basically every other one is going to be the same thing. So once again, we want to go around first, adding in these normal roof pieces just like this. Then we actually also want to go around the outside and add them in just over here, basically the alternating sections. And this is to kind of create a little bit of overhang going on, just to make this roof look a little bit nicer. I would have loved to do this with ramps, but of course they look quite different. They don't have the same structure, as well as we don't have triangle pieces at the moment, only corners. So there we go. Then we want to take out the triangle pieces. This one that faces the extra entrance here on the side, we want to leave that one specifically open, but the other sections we can start to fill in, as well as adding another layer on top of there. There's going to be 3 layers in total. That is going to be this section of the roof. So here we just want to go around, start adding in those triangles to get that roof in place, and that will really help to get that feeling of Jurassic Park. Oh wait, nope. I'm doing exactly what I told you not to do. This section facing the entrance on the side, we do not want to fill that in just yet, because we're going to have another addition there. So we just want to fill in everything besides those 2 sections, and then we're just going to fill these in, and there we go. Going along. and filling in all these triangles to get ourselves that very iconic roof for the visitor center. Of course, the only downside is that if you're building this out of thatch, depending on your server settings, you will have to log in very often to make sure that it doesn't decay. But of course, we can't really build this visitor centers without having this, because it's kind of the iconic piece that makes it what it is. We need it. So yeah, there we go. That is the start of it. And then we want to fill in these gaps at the top. Don't go any higher for now. Just going around like this. And there we go. All right, so we have that in place. We want to then take out our ceilings again. Make sure you add them against the triangle parts. And of course, then we can do every other one to go all the way around again to basically get that circle going again. And in between, we'll have our triangles to connect up to. Just like that. All the way around. There we go. And then what we want to do is add in another wall. Again, if you're using bunker cosmetics, you don't need to use greenhouse glass. You can use something stronger. But if you're not going to use cosmetics at all, yeah, you definitely want to use the greenhouse because it's the best thing we have in the game. It's not great, but it's all we have. You want to go all the way around. Then we want to take out our pillars, add them alongside just like so, to have a little bit more support and details going on for this layer. Just like that. And then we want to take out our slope walls. And we actually want to add them in like this to kind of keep the shape of the roof going. Whilst having a little opening for the window, of course. Just as we see on the one from movies. And we want to do that all the way around. And once we've done that, we can add in another layer of roofs here on these corners. We want to add in our full roofs. Going round like this. All the way until we meet back up. And then, of course, filling in the triangle sections in between. Just like so. We don't want to go any higher yet. Just want to go around with one layer of these roofs all the way. There we go. And then we want to basically repeat the process again. So we're going to bring in our ceilings against the triangle, of course. And then every other one is going to be a full ceiling. And then the gaps in between is going to be triangles again. Then we're going to have some pillars going around, of course. Just like so. And then again, having our slope walls to keep the shape of the roof going. There we go. And then in between, of course, we're going to add some more windows. Just one more layer like that. And then for the final top, of course, finishing off the roofs with some triangles. And there we go. We got the iconic roof in place already. Really helps transforming this into something very close to the visitor center. But there's a few more additions that we want to make. Now, the reason we kept these sides open is because there is actually going to be two more of these little side roofs as well. Basically, two little rooms on top of here. So we want to start with adding in these full roofs. And then next to it, we want to have 3 of those triangles just like this. And we're going to do that, of course, for both sides. So we'll just do that right away. And then again, we can, of course, add in one roof to the end of both of these. There we go. And then we'll keep this going. Again, 3 more triangles. 3 more triangles on that side as well. Continue going on the other side. It's just easier to do it all in one go, I think. And then we'll change to the full roofs again. Full roofs here as well. Then, of course, we can take out our triangles for both of these. And then you can finish that off. And then, of course, we want to do the same thing here. So the triangles here, triangles there, and then filling in the final piece of the roof. And that is going to give us 2 little additions to the side to really get this final look going. All right, then what we want to do is find these ones around the corner. So very close to the actual center bit. We want to add or full walls, and we want to add doorways underneath them. That's going to be the entrances or exits onto the roof for this particular room. And of course, we're going to do the exact same thing here on the other side. So again, the one closest to the building, the full roofs, we want to snap the walls to, and then have a doorway underneath them, and actually add in the doors themselves as well, of course. Then we want to take out our full roofs again, and we want to do that under all of these, or full walls under these full roofs, because that's the only points we can snap. Don't want to fill it all in all the way to the bottom yet, so we're just going to go around and add these in like so. Then we want to take out our pillars along the entrances over here, just like that. And then underneath these, we can actually add in our windows. We'll do the same thing over here. Add in those windows. Add in those pillars. There we go. It won't let you snap a wall against these triangle roofs. So what we need to do is have some help with that by adding in some of these temporary walls or temporary ceilings, and then we want to have triangle ceilings next to it that we can use to snap from. So for example, we want to snap from here, fill in these walls just like so all the way around. Same thing over here, but of course here on these sides we don't want to fill in the bottom layer, so we only want to do the top layer around the place just like that. And then the bottom layer, yeah, we want to use our glass so that we have some nice windows going all the way around. And then we should be able to take out these ceilings that we temporarily used, and the walls should stay in place, and that gives us a nice room to use. And of course we're going to do the same thing for the other side over here. So again, we want to use some temporary walls or ceilings like this, and then triangles next to them, of course, to create the snap points. And then we can start going around, adding them in just like this. And of course here we can fill them in completely. Same over here, just the top there, fill in our windows all the way round. And then we should be able to take the ceilings out again without any issues. There we go. So that means that we have those new little additions in place for now, but of course they're not quite finished yet. We want to take out our quarter roofs and add some around. I'm not sure how far you'll be able to go on official settings, probably not too far before it won't allow it anymore. If you're even attempting this in official settings, of course, probably not. And then we just want to go all the way around, add in these little thatch pieces. There we go. Just to make it look a little bit nicer, but not go the full overlap, because that's a little bit too much for this section. So we just want to go around like this and add in our overhang all the way around. There we go. Well, now that we've completed all that on the inside, we can finish the rest of the roof. It's actually going to be quite simple. Just didn't want to do this earlier so that we had some more light to work with. So we want to fill in the full roofs, and then of course go around, fill in the triangles just like that, and add in the final triangles for these sections too. So that is what one little addition is going to look like. And of course we're going to do the same thing for this section over here. adding in the roofs. Just like that. Filling in the triangles all the way around to get that final look going. And there we go. Now that is already the kind of look that you're expecting for the Jurassic Park Visitor Center. Very nice. And basically you have 2 extra rooms here on the top that you could utilize as your bedroom for maybe you and your tribe mates, or you know, whatever you want. Turn it into a greenhouse, whatever you want to do on your playthrough. But yeah, there we go. That is the version, of course, without any cosmetics. Still looks decent, I would say. Not as nice, of course, but still pretty decent, and a decent amount of room on the inside too. We can add a little bit more details on the inside. Now that we have all the walls complete, we can add some of these shallow sloped walls to add in a little bit of curvature to these sections, basically. Make them stand out a bit more, I think is a nice way to go around and do that. There we go. Yeah, that just adds a little bit more shape to the place and should give you a decent amount of space. Of course, you have your control room up here, and of course your access points to the roof itself, where you can park plenty of flyers. Now, what I actually also did for the final build was add a little bit more details on top of the roof. So to add in some solar panels, we're going to go here. We're going to go in by 2, and that is where we want to add this one. We want to take out our metal ramps and see if we can snap them just like this. I like to flip them around. Basically add 4 of them like this, and then add another layer on top of that. Once we have them in place, we can of course add a few more of these thin half pillars in as supports, and you can maybe even paint them up a little bit to make them look even more like their actual solar panels. And then what I would do is add in another row of them right about here. It's just a nice little bit of detail, of course, serves no purpose. Actually takes away a little bit of the space that you could use to park flyers, but I think it's a cool addition, and it kind of looks like that is what is powering your base. But yeah, there we go. That is how you build the Jurassic Park's Visitor Center. And this is what the finished product can look like with some additional details. Now, I have used the bunker structure custom cosmetic for most of this, adding in all the major structures, etc., as well as all the windows, some of the spinning fans that we'll see, and even some of the decoration. But there's, of course, some additional ones that I've used. It's kind of hard to see, but the grass texture right underneath is from the Cozy Cabins custom cosmetic, and this water is using the Crystal custom cosmetic because it also has the ramps, etc. But there is a free version of the Wild Water custom cosmetics that you could use, but you can't have the ramp in there. You just need to keep it flat instead. That is how you get all those in place. Using the bunker cosmetics, I've also added some of these overgrown variants that they offer, like these on the sides as well. But I also have some additional greenery using JVH landscaping for all the extra plants on the side, as well as all the plants and flowers here in these little garden bits, and even these skeletons in the front are part of the JVH landscaping mod. This sign is using scribbles where you can upload images to signs and then hide the sign to get these cool effects. The sign was made by Mr. Wild Times from my community. Then over here in the middle, I added this little garden. What I did to do this was basically make a circle with quarter walls, then filling it in with some more ceilings and pillars around it, and then adding the grass effect, which is great if you're going for some decorative piece in your middle of your base. But of course, if you want to use it as a practical ARK base, might not be the best way to go. But then once again, you can see I've added the Cozy Cabin structures on top of it to add that extra bit of detail. And as well, we have some of the shiny dermises around here. The shiny mod is a different mod. This was the only way to get the full skeletons there. Actually, one of them seems to have disappeared. Not quite sure what happened there, but there's supposed to be a cool Rex there as well. I don't know why that one would disappear and the rest wouldn't, but it is what it is. I've also used the wall and floor deco mod for some additional decor, as well as the trophy table for even more decor. But that is all optional, of course. Was more to get the vibes of Jurassic Park in here. Let's take a good look at the base. So this is how I skinned it using the bunker cosmetics. Most of this is the normal bunker skin, which of course has that really cool texture to it, but it also has a bunch of variants to it. Namely, the windows themselves is just a variant of the normal wall. So you just keep cycling through it, and then you eventually get to these details. Then we have the construction skin on these to get the metal look for those. Same for the pillars and beams around the windows. That's the construction look. This is another wall variant. That is a really cool little way to decorate. Here at the top we have a wall variant with some tiny windows, just to add some, you know, extra detail in there. Same over here. This is actually new. This is a large wall that I used to save some space, and it adds some like cool details all the way along it. You can see the spinning fans. That is actually also just part of the normal wall, but this is a really nice way, of course, to decorate it without having to do too much work, really using the cosmetics. Got some cool windows back here, as well as some bigger windows along the top side there, and another spinning fan to add in some details. Really also like the look of these behemoth hangar door or barn doors. Really nice. Going all the way around, basically repeating the same process over again to get this look, and as well, of course, adding some of these overgrown variants in certain places to make it stand apart. And for these, I've used these cool window variants to get the wall variants, I suppose, to get these cool windows in. More windows there. Just using the bunker structures all the way along to get some really nice details. And then some of this decorations is the deco boxes with the bunker cosmetics. This is the generator from bunker cosmetics. Again, deco box, another deco box, just to add in some details. That's the solar panels that we made. And then over here we have the cooker and the industrial grill with the factory custom cosmetic. Actually, that's a different one. But yeah, that is how you get the whole look. Let's take a closer look inside as well. So it's a pretty sizable base, especially if you take out some of these decorative options that I've utilized in here. And yeah, just go for some normal decorations on the inside, of course. Very nice way to decorate, though, if you do want to go for the aesthetic look. Then we have plenty of space, of course, along the sides. As you can see, I've set up a little bit of a storage system in here. The grinder, industrial forge, all fit easily inside. We have some tames, even some big tames like the Karcher that fit inside. We got some of the breeding stuff in here. We've got raptors, rexes, another Karcher. As you can see, you can fit quite a lot in here without it getting too cramped. And especially, of course, if you maybe don't go for the decorative look in the middle, there's an even bigger circle that you can utilize for some of your breeding or tames or whatever you want to go for. Up here we have the walkways leading into the control room, where we have some more crafting and storage all the way around. And then, of course, these walkways going up and going to the roof so that you can access that. And then we have these bedrooms to the side with a little bit of additional storage, personal cryo, and just some nice decoration around it. And then we have the same going on over here. Another nice bedroom with some simple decorations inside to call home. Yeah, really happy with the way this one turned out. Hopefully you liked it as well. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again in the next video stream. For now, goodbye.